Erased Destiny. Chapter 3. Planning and Executing. Jargon was happy to see his parents leave. They intended to spend a few days away from home, which gave him a free hand. After saying goodbye to his calligraphy teacher, Jargon went out to the courtyard. He made sure that no one was watching him, and he casted ice control. He tried to mold Merigold's statue, but it didn't turn out very well. Nevertheless, he laughed to the accompaniment of the whistling wind. Then he built a snow fortress that could be used for a snowball battle. There was only one problem. No one, except of children of Cyril's business partners, would visit him. And those children would certainly not take part in something physically demanding. Jargon immediately thought of Merigold. He had not seen her for a long time and missed her company. Taking advantage of the lack of parental supervision, Jargon left the residence and cross-country walked to his friend's place. He looked through the window of her room but did not see the girl, so he knocked on the door. He hoped Rose would open it for him, but this time it was Abella.
Good morning. Is Merigold home?
No, she is not. Merigold works in Sintra. She comes back late in the evening and leaves early in the morning. We hardly see her at all.
Jargon looked at Abella, as if he was waiting for some more information. He felt guilty. Merigold had to work for the sake of her family, and he thought about having some fun. Raglan put aside a rake that he was trying to fix. Why was Jargon bothering them?
We'll let her know you asked about her.
What time does she return usually? I could meet her halfway.
Raglan smiled to himself and fixed a new tooth to replace the broken one. The driven wedges held well, so he hoped the tool would last for a few months more, before it fell apart completely. Abella went back to hemming the cloak with blue thread and rose-peeled rookins. Jargon felt bad that he was the only one who didn't have to work, so he said,
She could work for us. She would save time.
What kind of job do you want to offer to her? Housemaid? I don't think Merigold would be interested in cleaning someone's house. Merigold likes her current job enough to think about moving to Sintra.
Jargon didn't know what to answer. He was not interested in his father's matters and did not know if father was looking for someone or not. Merigold's parents looked at him with growing impatience, so he said the first thing that came to his mind.
A herbalist. Merigold could grow and gather medical herbs that we would sell among our other wares.
Like father, like son, knows only how to use others to work for him.
If it was profitable to grow herbs here, your father would order us to do so long time ago. Why don't you gain at least basic knowledge regarding your future trading empire before you start speaking?
The laughter coming from Merigold's hut echoed in Jargon's head for a long time. He recognized that this was a hurtful opinion for his father, but in Jargon's case, it was unfortunately accurate. He could not work like Merigold. He lacked not only skill, but resourcefulness and courage. He imagined a grown-up himself, on a big horse with a sword on his back. Someone like Torden. Jargon shook his head. He would not become a warrior, and he was well aware of that. What could he be? What could he do besides looking after his father's business? Maybe build houses. Everywhere roofs had to be patched up, rafters replaced, walls damaged by rain or wind repaired. With a strong resolve to learn something useful, he went to his father's study. He saw there several books dedicated to crafts, carpentry, masonry, blacksmithing. He hoped that theory would help him choose the right path for himself and prepare him for hardships of apprenticeship. He sat down on the floor and turned the pages. On most of them were engravings of various buildings and their fragments. What Jargon liked the most were wooden ships, huge and majestic, capable of carrying not only people but also cargo. If he built such a ship, he could sail it all over the world. He could trade with the inhabitants of distant port cities. He immediately remembered that he could not sail, navigate, or even do business. Jargon lay down on the carpet and stared mindlessly at the wooden ceiling. He was good at nothing. Footsteps in the corridor roused the boy to his feet. A servant walked past Cyril's study and headed for the bathroom. According to Joanna's schedule, it was Jargon's birthday. Parents deprived Jargon of any freedom and chance to learn independence. But on a ship, his own ship, Jargon would be able to forget about his cage. By the time Jargon nails the last plank to the deck, he can learn how to sail. Learning languages came easily to him. He was good with calculus too. All he needed to do was to build a ship. He sat down on the carpet again and continued reading, imagining himself waving from the deck of his own ship to Merigold running to meet him. Jargon's parents returned home few minutes after sunset, 2 days earlier than they had intended, only because there was a pneumonia outbreak in Sintra and no one to discuss further deliveries with.
Finally, some male hobbies.
Cyril summarized the tomes laying on the floor in his study. He was glad to see Jargon there, to see Jargon reading crafts books.
Isn't fencing a sport for men?
As long as it was used to defend your family or possession. Geography, calculus and foreign languages are useful to a merchant, I don't deny, but calligraphy, music, history. A little more and you'll start wearing a dress.
I don't understand. You chose such lessons for me.
Jargon stood up and collected the books from the floor. He wanted to put them back on the shelves, but his father pointed to the door with his head. The two of them went to Jargon's room and placed the manuscripts there, on an empty shelf, above the desk.
Joanna chose. Mother takes care of education of her children and father pays the teachers. Well, I had hoped that when you grew up a little, you would discuss your future with your mother.
Every time Cyril compared Jargon to his deceased siblings, it turned out that the youngest offspring can't do anything right. Malika, at the age of 2, was building sentences nicely, and Jargon, as a 4-year-old, was still stuttering. Gabriel at 6 was dueling with his father with wooden swords, and Jargon was running away from any confrontation. That's why Cyril hired Torden. He hoped that by learning from a stranger, Jargon would overcome his shyness and start behaving like a man.
I would like to go to Sintra more often. To see the craftsmen at work.
Watching won't teach you anything. You have to work with your own hands. There is no dishonor in any job. Everyone starts somewhere. And then achieves something. Relying on others won't get you far. They will kick you out of the business as soon as they notice that you know nothing.
Jargon did not say that he had offered Merigold a job, and that he was kicked out of the business before he even started it. Raglan's words rang in the boy's ears once more and stung him painfully. They hurt his pride.
Dad, what can you do? Besides trading and renting land?
The directness of the question somewhat surprised Cyril. He concluded that Jargon had heard some unflattering opinions about him, so he decided to give a comprehensive answer.
As a boy I apprenticed to a ropemaker, which I do not regret. However, I was more interested in traveling than in craftsmanship. That is why I started out as a courier. On horseback, I carried letters, parcels and expensive gifts. When it turned out that they paid more for protecting merchant caravans, that's where I got employed.
And Gabriel? What did he want to do?
Gabriel dreamt of a life on horseback, constantly traveling and exploring. Preferably with a partner as crazy as he was. You see, I am alone in my work. Gabriel dreamed of taking a girl with him. If he needed cash, he would race for money, play cards or duel on behalf of cowardly kids of Sintra. He didn't think about steady work at all. At least I know nothing about it. Don't repeat to your mother what I told you now.
Jargon was so different from Cyril and Gabriel that he even began to wonder if they were blood-related. The reasoning led him to question his mother's marital honesty, so he abandoned further deliberation.
You're still a long way from your 20th birthday and getting married, so for the time being I'd concentrate on getting rid of those unmanly lessons.
I hate calligraphy. Thanks, Dad.
Cyril's loud laughter lured Joanna out of the bedroom. The woman looked at the men sitting in Jargon's room with cool eyes of a dragon awakened from its slumber.
Women are far more complicated than you think. They will surprise you more than once and more than twice. That's why don't talk too much. You can't be silent either, because in place of unspoken words they will insert a story convenient for them.
Whenever I do not reply, Merigold considers that I have agreed with her. That's why I'll say it straight out, Mother, most of the lessons are a waste of time and money. My language proficiency surpasses that of my teachers. I didn't say a thing because those lessons were the only ones I enjoy.
Cyril left, and Joanna entered the room. Jargon continued his monologue, looking at the floor. He was afraid that if he looked into his mother's narrowed eyes, he would forget what he wanted to say.
I play mediocrely, not well enough to interest the maidens, and I have no talent for it. I can't stand calligraphy. It's of no use to me. History bores me and it is useless as well. I can't cope with geography. I can't remember all those names. Fencing will definitely be useful to me, so even though I am bad at it, I would like to continue my lessons. Literature is fine too. At least I'll have something to talk to the girls about. Could you sign me up for etiquette lessons? I don't know how to talk to the ladies, how to behave at a ball, at a formal dinner, do business talks.
Yes, of course, I wanted to do that a long time ago. Unfortunately, the teacher won't get to us, you'll have to visit her in Sintra. She's an old woman, she used to teach me, and maybe even my parents.
I'd love to stay in Sintra for a while. Someday I'd like to build big ships carrying our goods from town to town. But I realize that I have a long way to go. First I need to learn woodworking, to understand the principles of constructing smaller objects. Thank you, Mother, for understanding me.
He turned away, winked at his father, and went downstairs to clean his shoes after playing outside. He waited until his mother left his room to return there and start getting ready for bed. He listened for footsteps on the stairs.
Carpentry is too dangerous. You'll fall off the roof and kill yourself. I don't agree with you doing something like that. Do you know that woodworkers lose their fingers most often of all craftsmen? Find a safer occupation.
Blacksmithing?
Joanna squinted her eyes. Cyril hid behind the dining room door. He was curious to see how much determination Jargon would show.
Neither. You'll burn yourself. Besides, you'll be too dirty to appeal to the ladies. I'll sign you up for architecture and construction classes. You'll learn to design different buildings, make drawings. The best studio is right next to the town hall. And just a few steps away, noble girls learn how to sing. Since you are interested in crafts, how about goldsmithing? I know one good goldsmith, but not here. He would certainly take you on as an apprentice. Or winemaking. Do you know how hard it is to get a good wine here? Think about it.
Goldsmithing rather not. But winemaking sounds interesting. So do lessons in architecture.
Satisfied with the results of the discussion, Joanna hugged her son and said,
I will take care of everything. I hope Mrs. Amelia still teaches.
As his wife returned to the bedroom, Cyril emerged from his hiding place. He struggled to hold back his laughter.
It didn't go bad. Winemaking can even be interesting.
In Sintra I will have many opportunities to learn. What do you bark wood with?
Plain. Stubborn like your mother, but that's all right. More than once I've wondered why you are so submissive. No one in the family was so quiet.
Cyril sat on the step and stared out the window at the almost black sky. In his younger days, he had spent most nights outdoors, but that was the part of his biography he didn't want to share with his son.
Dad! Were your parents so careful too? Did they forbid you anything that could lead to harm? Did you train fencing with a wooden sword instead of a steel one?
I didn't take any lessons. I learned how to fight on the street. A sword? I usually used a rod stolen from the blacksmith.
Cyril fell silent. His father worked in the mines, and when the boy was 5 years old, he just didn't come back. There was a bump. About 15 people died, and that was that. A single mother took on various jobs to feed herself and her child. One customer beat her to death. Cyril was younger than Jargon when he had to earn his own living.
And your parents? Why didn't I meet them? What did they do for a living?
My father was a miner and my mother ran an inn. They died when I was younger than you. I was raised on the street of a town a little bigger than Sintra.
I am sorry. I didn't know. You have never said.
Joanna takes care of the right image of our family. Her parents lent money at interest. A profitable, but to me disgusting, occupation. They were not interested in my background, only in the possessions I had.
Cyril went outside, leaving Jargon alone. The boy vaguely cleaned his shoes and locked himself in his room. He packed his personal belongings to be ready for an imminent departure.